Well, in a big twist to the CBI drama, the top court has set aside the CVC order that sent CBI Chief Alok Verma on leave. He can now report back to work as the chief of the CBI starting today, but will have limited powers. The Supreme Court has largely, on the validity of the CVC order, decided that a high-powered selection committee consisting of the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition and the Chief Justice of India were meant to take the decision to begin with. Will look at the case afresh and within a week make their decision. And until then, the Alok Verma, while he will return to his office, will have limited powers. Joining me right now on the channel is Sanjay Hegde, Alok Verma's counsel, senior lawyer with the Supreme Court. Mr. Hegde, first of all, congratulations. This is obviously a positive verdict for your client. If you could take our audience through exactly what the Supreme Court's observations were in this order regarding the government's midnight action against the CBI chief.
See, I would not personalize things. It's not only a victory for Mr. Verma, but it is a victory for independent investigation in this country. In order to ensure that the CBI conducted independent investigations, the Supreme Court had long ago in the Vineet Narayan judgment insulated the CBI director by giving him a fixed term of 2 years and saying that his appointment would be by a high-level committee which included the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition and the Chief Justice of India. The idea was to have an institution headed by a man who could not necessarily be touched. The government of the current government and the CVC thought that they could transfer the man and not violate the law. Mr. Verma went to court, and today the court has unanimously held that this action of the government was wrong. He could not have been transferred. You could not subvert the process of appointment and his fixed tenure in this fashion. Therefore, if at all, for any reason, you have to move the CBI director, even for his benefit, let's assume that he is being given a promotion and made a governor somewhere or made an ambassador somewhere. Even for those purposes, you necessarily have to consult the committee. The insulation and the given to the CBI director's office and the independence of the investigative agency, those are the two things that have actually won. Mr. Verma can come and go, and there will be other directors after him, there will be other governments after this government. But now the point is settled that you cannot subvert this institution by just sending somebody on leave or passing a so-called innocuous order, keeping the man away from exercising independence in that office.
Mr. Hegde, there are, of course, some arguments that this was a partial victory because Mr. Verma has not been given full powers at this point. Also, the question of, his removal will now be placed before the high-powered committee. What is the status of accusations of corruption against him?
See, we shall have to read the full text of the judgment. It has not yet been uploaded. But if I were to just decode it without reading the judgment, I would say that what the court has done is that all these allegations which were taken at face value by the CBI, by the CVC, and based on which the government of the day removed him, those allegations will also be available before the high-powered committee, which is that of the Chief Justice of India, the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition to consider as to what to do with those allegations. Mr. Verma will serve out the rest of his tenure so that till the end of this month. And I believe that the judgment also recommends that the high-power committee also look for a successor.
Right, and Mr. Hegde, we had the Finance Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, defend the government's midnight action, saying that the government believed that it was necessary at the time, and they would examine the rest of the details of, like you said, of the order when it is uploaded, and then comment on the rest. Now, do you believe, and this is a slightly subjective question, but if you'll allow me, do you believe that this confirms that the government was stepping outside of its brief and perhaps also interfering in the actions of the CBI?
Of course it was. In fact, from what I have seen on social media tweets about when the judgment was read, the court seems to have held that even if you had a problem with the CBI director, there was nothing which prevented you from coming to the committee. The committee could have met at any point of time, and then the committee would have possibly even blessed the action of the government. This tearing hurry at midnight to lock the man out of his office, take over, and then subsequently rationalize and justify everything, that was certainly not on. Please, again, do not look only at the individual or only at the facts and circumstances of this case. Please think institutionally. Can you have an independent investigative agency in the CBI if the director, if any director can be sent off at any point of time by any government saying, no, there are allegations against you, therefore please don't come to office till we examine all of that. That is exactly what has been interdicted today. If the government of the day and the CVC want to take action against the director, then they must go back to the appointing authority, which is the committee, and get that committee's approval as well. So you have institutional checks and balances against executive overreach.
Institutional checks and balances against executive overreach there, but when it comes right now to the functioning of the CBI, Mr. Hegde, even if Mr. Verma does go back to office today, there is a massive dent in credibility that will perhaps will take time and effort to rebuild.
Well, that institution building exercise is an ongoing process. I have no doubt that Mr. Verma, in the brief time that is left to him, will do his best to restore whatever institutional integrity that he deems necessary or that he is capable of with his limited brief. And I have no doubt that the next CBI chief, who will be chosen by the committee, will continue on the same path. Institutions do suffer at times in certain situations where there are individual clashes, but at the end of the day, you must look at the institution and not the individual. The institution is permanent, the individual is a transient creature.
Right, Sanjay Hegde, the counsel for Alok Verma in Supreme Court, and we understand, and we want to give a quick update to our viewers. The Supreme Court has quashed the government order to remove Alok Verma from his office. Mr. Hegde, again, thank you so much for your time on this very important